as Mexican Americans that came from this street right here, they fought for their families, they fought for a better way of life, they fought to represent who we are and what we are. You know, we don't just show up. We show up and we give this. We give that. You see what I'm saying?
Fernando?
Right, Munoz. Marine? I won't blame that on you. That's okay. You still work for the Navy?
Tim Garcia.
Hi, Sierra.
Hi, Sierra. I'm Brian Munoz.
Well, I'm glad you're all here, and I do have I have some pins for all of you, and I'll give them to you in just a few minutes as we tour this street. One thing about me as mayor and as alderman, I really don't like them coming down here and campaigning. These boys, these 8 boys that this street is dedicated to, I don't think we should be, trying to get a vote on the back of a veteran. It's bad enough we don't give them enough. I tell our state rep and our congressman, and they all agree when they're here, but then when they go away, they kind of forget about it. And I said, well, that's kind of the story of the Mexican people. We were okay to go and fight for a war that, we were proud to go to. Brian was proud to go to. The 8 boys, they were under 21, I think. All of them.
Well,
21.
maybe 22.
Yeah, when they passed in the service to their country. But when you want us, you don't have to go looking for us. We'll come looking for you, and we'll go fight your fight. And I'm working on Joe Gomez, who's one of the Hero Street 8. I'm working with Congressman Sorensen for the Congressional Medal of Honor, and I believe we've got a good shot at getting that. Back then, World War II in Korea, a lot of blacks and Hispanics were overlooked for that medal because it was race. It was still race. But I believe his story is worth. So right now we're trying to get his record opened up from the Department of Defense so we can start moving on that.
Well, please let us know how we can support that effort. Anything we could do, we want to do.
Especially you
Yes, sir.
your service.
Sir, amen.
So we're honored definitely to be here. We want to take a look at this wonderful memorial that we put up there. How long has this been here?
The Memorial Park
Yes.
has been here since 70.
Yes.
70, and then declared a historical landmark thereafter in the street, getting the name switched from 2nd Street Silvis to Hero Street Silvis. All came about from the commissioning of the Memorial Park. So it all began up there at the park. This came about from a group of us, of the family of 8, in particular the Solis family, that figured we needed something right here out front, right out here on the street to let everyone see who we are, because the park sits a little further back. And they came up with this design, they came up with this monument, and they came up with this tribute in order to gather the attention of the public to say, hey, come see who we are, come see what we have done.
We actually branched off from the Wisconsin chapter of the ABIF. And basically that's our sole purpose is to build a memorial to honor Latino veterans from Wisconsin. And so we're really excited to be here, really excited. We know the importance of, also stating that, we're here, we did serve, all the things that Daryl touched on. But we're excited to see something that is in person, that we can actually, everything has already come to fruition. So thank you for hosting us. We're really excited to be here. We're really excited to learn more about the history of the families here.
So let's get started. Thank you all once again. Yep. But if you walk around here, you're talking about, you'll see the Mexican Americans that came from this street right here. They fought for their families. They fought for a better way of life. They fought to represent who we are and what we are. We don't just show up. We show up and we give this. We give that. You see what I'm saying? So this monument represents the ideals of duty, honor, and country as exemplified by military service rendered to our nation by all American veterans during all wars to preserve freedom for the United States of America. A special tribute is mentioned here to honor the 8 men from Hero Street who gave the supreme sacrifice during World War II and the Korean War. So what it's saying here is that even though we are of Mexican American descent, we want to honor all that served. Everyone that's from a street just like our street. No matter what your nationality is, what your religion is, or what your personal thoughts or political stands are, you are still somebody who stepped up to the line and made that oath and took that oath to represent this country and fight for this country. What you see here is a street road. This is a real significant part of the story. And then that being that when our original World War II warriors that passed, that died, we couldn't get them up this street because this was nothing but dirt and mud. So I'm going to go into the history of Hero Street, but I'll take you back for one moment and understand that all of our people that came here for work. And that work was there at Silva's Railroad Yard. Silva's Railroad Yard is the reason that they even left Mexico during the Revolutionary War. You know, we lived in boxcars where you had no air, you had no heat, you had no nothing. Watch yourself, son. And so this road here was nothing but dirt and mud. And so because they had no monies for the lumber and such it takes to build a house, they build homes out of boxcars. Look at this house. What do you see? What do you see there? That's a boxcar sideways. That's a boxcar house. Still, right here. That house was built out of a boxcar. Look at the depth. Look at the width. That was a boxcar. Wow. And that's how we built our homes back then. We took the boxcars out of the railroad yard and built these homes. That house has boxcars behind it, and that's the Macias house. And you see it's the Gold Star family house. That's where Macias was from. And they've gone now since and put in the new gold stars to put it where the houses are. Now this is where I grew up. I grew up there, and that was my grandpa Joe, who was the brother of Johnny. And then there is the original Munoz house. The original Munoz house, that's two boxcars side by side. Ignore the front and ignore the back, and that's two boxcars. And that's the original Munoz house. And then you go up the street, and that's what you see, is a lot of the houses that were once boxcars and made into homes. And this was nothing but dirt and mud. Now you see the hill of the Hero Street Park. See here where the families lived in the railroad yard, you can see how the railroad yard village was set up. How the railroad yard, this is where they lived and how they lived. And then you see again, once again, everything that these guys have done. The Bronze Stars, the campaign medals, the World War II service. These are gentlemen that served with honor and distinction. But the one thing that I always say, in every speech that I ever give, is that we have to honor them, but we have to honor their families as well. We have to honor their parents that made that move. We have to honor the brothers and the sisters that knew that their loved ones were away. Absolutely. And being that I'm a serviceman, I know what I did to my family. I know how my grandma felt. I know how my dad felt. And we have to remember that it impacts all. They were being looked upon for being people of color, right? And they thought, again, the city thought, some of the folks in the city thought that we were living some kind of, lavish life down the railroad yard, and we weren't paying taxes. So they said, hey, these folks have to buy their own homes. They have to have their own homes. They have to have their own life. And so we were pushed out of that railroad yard and pushed up to this area. The first Our Lady of Guadalupe church was built in the railroad yard. And then it went from there to 4th Street in Silva. But that was, that's how we had to do church, because again, the white families didn't want us in their church. So we had to build our own church. They didn't want us in the VFW when we came back from the wars. So we had to build our own VFW. But we did that, and our people did the best they could. If you needed food, another family helped. If you needed help, another family helped. It was community living. People helped each other just as they did back in the days of the railroad. They helped each other. And the same thing happened when we moved here on the street. They all knew each other. They all helped each other. They all assisted in each other. They all grieved with each other when our young men died in war. So what better example of American way of life is that than to be there for each other and by each other, and then to fight for this, flag. They fought for this. They fought for history. They fought for freedom, but not just for themselves, but for their families and for the spirit of America. I chose to join. I joined because I was a part of this, and I had to be nothing but the best for them, nothing but the best for what they did for us and all the families.